Yeah.
You're unmuted.
Yeah, my dad.
You're unmuted.
There you go.
Businesses.
You can have two.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, the Benzie County Board of Commissioners. Today is August 13th, 2024. We're in the Frank Walder House Boardroom. Roll call, please.
Cunningham,
Present.
Janat,
Yes, ma'am.
Markey,
Here.
Nye,
Here.
Rolas.
Here.
Sauer,
Here.
Worsakki.
Here.
Please stand for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance. Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Benzie County. I would ask for your guidance with the decisions we'll make today. Please keep all of our public safety personnel safe and free from harm. I ask in the name of your son. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Today's agenda. If there are any changes,
Motion to approve.
Second.
motion and support. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So move. Approval and or correction of the minutes from July 23rd, 2024.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and support. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So move. Brings us to our first public comment. Is there anybody like to share this morning? Being done. Close public comment. Elected officials and department heads. Anybody? My goodness. Madam Treasurer? Really? First, knock them out.
We're talking to everybody, Evan?
Good morning, Kelly Long, County Treasurer.
Thank you, Dave.
Presenting your bills for the last 2 weeks. Let's see, from July 19th of 24 to August 8th of 24. The amount is $628,820.84.
Make a motion that we pay the bills. I will support.
Motion and support. Is there further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Don't say anything.
I'm waiting for the clerk, but
Oh, I'm sorry. Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Rolas.
yes,
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki.
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
motion carried.
thank you.
All right, I just have a quick update for Treasurer's Office. It's been a little slow since we got the taxes out, but things are starting to pick up again. I do have conference in 2 weeks, so I will not be here. We are at Crystal Mountain this year, so that'll be fun. Working on a bunch of these different class action lawsuits that have been getting approved and done, but there's been some reappealments, so hopefully I have some more information for you with you for that in September. Also coming up in September, both my girls are going to a MCAT teaching, which is a baby assessing teaching. So I'll be by myself for a couple of days. We got a couple babies coming here in the next 30 days to 6 weeks. So my office will be in and out. Be a little crazy, but yeah, that's what's happening. And we're getting ready to get end of the year stuff done as well.
Kelly,
Mhm.
Go ahead, please.
I would just say, so these lawsuits that you're anticipating,
Mhm.
based on, we've prepared for those. These aren't
We
any
have.
liabilities that we should be concerned about if they didn't turn in perhaps our
Correct.
favor. We are prepared to.
Correct. Yeah, I'm learning more on that. Can't discuss a whole lot about it because of liabilities in place.
Sure.
But, I know we sent you guys out an email about a week ago. That number is actually a lot less.
Mm.
That hopefully I'll have more specifics on after this meeting that we're going to be having here in the next couple weeks on. But, we're just waiting on an appeal on that one. And, that's pretty much the only one that we are in that I know of at this point. Like I said, I'll learn more soon, but that probably won't be settled until sometime next year. And yes, we should be pretty much set for that unless they decide to throw, a wrench into it.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So Kelly, just as a follow-up
Mhm.
on that, for the public's benefit, maybe just give us a brief overview of when you said class action,
Mhm.
that might have gotten some people's attention.
Yeah, back in, I think it was 2014, it's in regards to our estate's foreclosure proceedings for the taxes. So you get 3 years to pay your taxes, and if you don't pay them in 3 years, the county treasurer, we're the FGU on that, will foreclose on you, and then you lose your property. Well, in 2020, there was a new law put in place because of the lawsuits that have been happening prior to that. So now, if you lose your property, you can file a claim of intent to claim whatever proceeds are in place. So right now, what's happening with this class action lawsuit is it's anything from 2020 back to 2014, I believe is as far back. They're still 14, 15. They're still deciding where the years lie. That these lawsuits have come up with people wanting to get their proceeds for that. That went back, that we had, accrued all that money. So we're just waiting on the final judgment on that. We had gotten a final judgment, but it was appealed. So what they're trying to do is get SEV times 2 instead of just the proceeds. And I don't think that's going to fly at all, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, because they'd be establishing a selling price that may or not have happened.
Correct.
But again, just for a little clarification,
Mhm.
when you say proceeds, what you're talking about is the difference between what it took to clear up their taxes and other liabilities and what may have been left over from the sale.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
and the county anticipating this had already put aside monies so that we wouldn't have to get hit with it all in 1 year.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And the treasurer, when those funds were taken at the time, was following statute. It was just.
Correct. We were following state statute.
Right.
Yep. And they changed it. And so, yeah, that's why I feel that the SEV times 2 isn't going to fly, just because the state of Michigan's changed that statute to what we have now. And I believe the courts are a lot happier with that. So,
Sure.
yeah, I think we'll be okay.
Okay, thanks for the explanation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Let's move to old business. Item A, consider scheduling a public hearing regarding the 2024 master plan update.
So over the last few months, we've went through a master planning process with Networks Northwest, which started after an ad hoc was established by this board. We're now to a point where we have a final addendum, a final draft of our updated master plan. And so from here, there is a certain process that's in place by the Michigan Planning Enabling Act that we must follow. So what I'm asking for you today is schedule a public hearing for after 63 days. I didn't come up with a number. 63 days. After that, we can have a public hearing and adopt the master plan. Within that 63 days, what that is a comment period for the local jurisdictions, the community and such to comment on the changes to the master plan. And then you will have the opportunity to incorporate those changes, respond to those changes, or, those sorts of things. So what I'm asking you today is simply schedule a public hearing for actually November 12th. I counted my Tuesdays wrong. It's not October 29th. So to schedule a public hearing for Tuesday, November 12th, to then hopefully adopt the master plan. What will happen after that public hearing is scheduled is that tomorrow we will send out a mass mailer to a long list of individuals who are entitled to the new master plan. That's going to be all the municipalities within our county, and then all the municipalities who touch our county. So Grand Traverse County, Manistee County. So they will also get a letter regarding the comment period for our master plan. So again, it's Tuesday, November 12th. I'm sorry for the mistake in the motion.
I will make that motion that the Board of Commissioners approves the distribution of the draft master plan, directing administration to distribute in accordance with the Michigan Planning Enabling Act and set a public hearing date for Tuesday, November 12th, 2024.
Second. Or
Tim,
it doesn't matter. No.
there's a motion and support. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes,
Janai,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you. Item B is consider a request from Girl Benzie for funding.
So at a recent study session, Josh from Girl Benzie presented to the board some of the things that they're doing at Girl Benzie and some of the direction that they'd like to go into the future. At that meeting, there was a request for $10,000 from the county as an allocation to Girl Benzie to support their efforts. And I brought that back to you for consideration. Josh is here today for any questions. He does have a handout for everyone also, which was some information that I believe a couple of commissioners requested at the last study session as well. But that's what we're here today, is to talk about and consider a possible allocation of $10,000 to Girl Benzie.
I would like to make the motion that the Board of Commissioners authorizes a one-time allocation of $10,000 to Grow Benzie for the 24-25 fiscal year to support its operations related to Benzie County with funds available in the general fund.
I will second.
Josh does have a handout.
I guess I have a question why we're approaching it this way. This was part of our budgeting conversation. I have a whole list in my notes of requests that have been made, considerations that we have to make when we look at the budget as a whole. If we were to do this and take out every individual request, it would be a really fragmented process. So I guess I don't understand why this is being handled outside of our budgeting process as a whole, because we're not there yet. We're not ready yet. We just had a vote. We have a lot of considerations to make, a lot of juggling to do, and this seems premature to me.
So I don't know to put it in the draft budget until I even hear from you. So this will prompt me to then add it to the draft budget, which is on your desk, which is going to be set on the counter and up for tweaks over the next couple of weeks anyways. And so that's part of the reason that it's in this agenda, because there wasn't a clear indication from the study session to add this to the draft budget. So that's part of the reason it's in front of you. The motion, I'm sorry, could be tweaked to say, pending final adoption by the 24-25 budget. And then that would suffice that. But I don't know to put it in that draft budget until I hear from you. And so that's why I'm bringing it forward so that we can add it to the draft budget.
Now, checking my list, are you pretty certain that this is the only funding request that is outside of the draft budget, that isn't an adjustment of something within the budget?
Well, there was the IT position, which I felt confident in putting into the draft budget, so I added that. The Human Services Collaborative wasn't talked about yet, but that's coming forward. I would have to look through my notes for the other items outside. Yeah. If there was other items.
Well, you also had the Parks and Rec.
Yep, Parks and Rec, that's coming too as part of this process, but it's not on this agenda. Yeah. So.
I also thought we had a grant writer opportunity.
Mm-mm.
I have some real heartburn with this. Giving out money, public money to a nonprofit. When it involves. I know it says one-time deal, but I really do not see it as a one-time deal. They've been able to operate exceptionally well. I don't have any qualms about what they do. Just have qualms about giving public money to these organizations. Donations are probably their best bet. And we need a grant writer, and if we hire a grant writer, I feel that a grant writer will pay for itself. An individual position will pay for itself. I said, I have a lot of heartburn with this. And where does it end? Once we start handing out money to nonprofits, who's next in line? And on and on and on, and it's not my money. It belongs to the folks out here in the county. That's where I stand with it.
And I can appreciate what you're saying, Commissioner Sauer, on that. I've been reading through our master plan quite thoroughly. And one of the big pillars there is supporting our agriculture and entrepreneurs and the business. And that's where I see Grow Benzie fitting in quite a few different categories that fulfill what we want as a county, as a county for the present time, but also where we're growing. So it's,
Well, we also have MSU downstairs. We have gave money to for years. And that group, I think, does a lot more for farmers than Grow Benzie can. This is more individual, smaller type stuff. If anybody's been paying attention to the news, the cherry industry, if you had the sweet cherries this year, was a terrible mess. Most of them lost most of their crop, and some of the sour, but the tart cherry farmers lost theirs too. So I don't see Grow Benzie helping that situation any. And this is well out of their realm of possibilities as far as I'm concerned. I just see it on a smaller scale. The individuals, gardening, that kind of stuff. I'm not saying anything against it. I just feel that giving county money that's my issue. So,
yeah, and mine is the support of really that agricultural pillar. And they have done that. Their spin-off businesses, the people that have started in their fruit farms or have now sold businesses, opened storefronts, and that's one thing in our master plan that we talk about too, is having that Main Street or the storefronts being alive and active, full of people, I believe is the quote from the master plan. So they are doing all of this, and I believe, if memory serves me, $1.1 million was brought into the community and supported small and entrepreneur farmers, which is, again, one of our pillars. So for me, $10,000 as a one-time shot might not seem like a lot in the grand scheme of budgets, but it could mean a heck of a lot for those beginning businesses and farmers for this community. And that's one of the things for our healthy community, to make it not just minimum wage things that people are earning, but they're, role model. I don't know if any of you have ever purchased anything from them. Basically, like an egg roll, but they're spring rolls. And it's a two-person team that turned it into a business that they were able to sell and make a pretty good profit at. And the product is fabulous. But what I'm saying is, by supporting it this way, our entrepreneurs, and it is really that rural incubator could be a template for others to follow to make successful. And we are totally supporting our community with this and what we stand for. So for me, I don't know. I don't think it's an overabundant.
the other question I had, and Katie kind of addressed it for this meeting. Legally, can you support nonprofits with government funding? I'm still not sure that shouldn't be looked into.
It's fine.
It's fine.
We also supported the Human Services Collaborative, which is a separate entity.
You remember my.
Oh,
Yes, I do.
The difference though with the Human Services Collaborative is that we have agreed to be a member of that group. And we've got somebody that sits on that group. And as I had made the case for, if we're going to assign somebody to it, then we need to pay our dues too. So I see this differently. And I think it's, we don't want to lose sight of the fact that we support Grow Benzie, and we've hired Grow Benzie indirectly and for the assistance in broadband, which hopefully benefited you folks. I know it certainly has benefited the community. And I see that as a way to be supportive of those kind of organizations for direct services and pay for those services versus just granting money to them.
Katie, can I put you on the spot?
Yeah.
For what you?
That's why
So
I
was
come here.
So this morning I was against this as well, and then Katie, could you say what you told, or the amounts that you told me this morning?
Yes, so I just brought up the, broadband specifically, they've been very instrumental in the county obtaining a lot of money. So the
Was that
Robin
2
grant
million?
was successful over 2 million. And then yesterday we received word from the Michigan High-Speed Internet Office that we're successful in $857,000. Well, just over coming to the region, and Grow Benzie really was instrumental in preparing that application and bringing that funding to the region specifically for broadband. So they've been playing a very important role in bringing a lot of that grant funding. And I can appreciate you wanting to hire a grant coordinator, and I absolutely do someday as well. But it's not in the budget right now, especially with the issues that we're going to be talking about later with the jail millage. The jail millage failed. We're not flush with cash to hire additional staff right now. Same with the Parks Director. Rose and I yesterday were bantering back and forth about Betsy Valley Trail and how it would be nice to have a Parks Director to take on the Betsy Valley Trail groups and those. But we're not flush with cash for those positions right now. And especially with us being in this situation with the jail millage have failing at the last election. And then hopefully in November, at least being able to obtain a renewal, we have to come up with some money. And so we don't have the money for those positions right now. We just don't. And so this is a way to partner with Grow Benzie for some of that grant writing, potentially.
Were they not paid for their participation in those grants?
They were, yes,
So that's where.
but it's
our-
broadband
our-
specific.
I have no problem paying for
I
the
don't have no
services.
problem
Yeah.
there either, but that's the part of the grant thing that if we had our own or didn't have our own,
Yeah,
it should pay for itself.
yep, eventually.
And eventually, it's not as if Grow Benzie had not profited somewhat from this agreement. And it's just, I'm never crazy about just handing somebody money.
Understood.
And so, thank you. I appreciate what they did.
Well,
And
part
I'm
of,
not trying to
yeah,
belittle what they did. I'm
Right.
just
one part of the
looking
reason
out for the people.
to
paying.
hear from you today, though, is to decide whether or not to put it in the draft budget. It's not in the draft budget at this point. Neither are the positions and the other things that we're going to talk about again at the next meeting. But scheduling agendas and trying to be respectful of everybody's time. So those other items are coming as well. But that's why it's in the packet today. So I know before September 12th, when we are tentatively adopting the budget, on whether or not this is included.
And it could very well be that in order to balance this budget, we'll be taking out a surplus. Right,
Depending on what happens with the jail.
right. Well, we know even if it passed at the same millage rate, we got to come up with some money.
I have asked the sheriff's office to figure out how to make cut.
Okay. But my point that I'm making is that I don't think we're in a position to be able to make these kind of contributions at all right now until I know, what the outcome of that budget is going to be. My responsibility is public safety and making sure that the campus is running. And as of last Tuesday, we got to go back and do our work again.
I move to table this motion until budget is,
Motion on
We
the
got a
table.
motion on the floor.
table this, can I?
No, you have to,
The roll call.
yeah. It either has to fail or it has to be withdrawn.
I'd ask that we call for the vote.
Nye? Roloffs?
No.
Sauer?
No.
Worsakki?
No.
Cunningham?
Yes,
Janat?
No,
Markey?
No.
Fail. Motion fails.
Do you want this brought back forward at the next meeting when we discuss the budget? I need to vocally hear from the board because now that it's failed, we have a different process than if
I
it was
do.
tabled.
I mean, I appreciate Grow Benzie's effort. I think the Rural Incubator is a fantastic idea. For me, it's just premature.
Yeah.
Based on the vote that just happened and the work that we have yet to do.
And for me, what I'd like to see is they've proven that they can contribute to what our efforts are here as a community. And we look at them with some kind of partnership as we've done through the broadband initiative and pay for those services. And, you know, I know that we paid for more than just cost. So I'm more than happy to have that relationship.
And I support them and would like to see it happen, but like Art and Roundabout said, I just think with last week's vote, I think it's a little premature to make the decision right now, but
Yeah, we
I
definitely
would
have
like
some
to.
challenges with our budget coming up.
Yep.
I want to get those things addressed first before, make sure we can, like I said, run the campus, public safety.
Right, so at the next meeting, when we hold a public hearing, this will be one of the topics as well, so that it can be part of that discussion.
Okay, that was
You
going
can
to
get
be
into
my
the weeds.
question,
Yeah.
to make sure
Yep.
that there is consideration, because there's so much
Mhm.
contribution
Yes,
that organization does for the benefit of this county.
Gary, good? I changed the
Looks like
date.
I've already got support, so I'm just gonna. oh,
Just,
shut.
you know, when something fails versus when it's tabled, there's different rules as to bringing back a
thank
topic,
you.
so.
Then
thank
I
you.
almost, yeah, I better
Yeah.
quit.
Thank
So-
you.
So Josh, we do support Grow Benzie, okay?
I'll be clear on how we're already supporting all the sectors. Signaling that we like to support.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
I think it's
Okay.
less about selling what you're doing, and it's more about budget issues.
Not your budget, our budget.
Yeah, our budget.
Thanks, Josh.
All right, if we're done with that, we'll move on to new business item A. Consider setting the public hearing for the 24-25 fiscal year budget.
So speaking of the budget, we need to set the public hearing, which will be at the next board meeting, the 27th of August. So at that time, we'll have a public hearing to hear from anyone who maybe wants to give a comment, as well as ability to get kind of in the weeds on the budget and some of those other outstanding requests, including Grow Benzie. So in the memo, you can see there's a bit of a timeline that we've proposed to go forward. So what I'm asking today is to schedule an additional public hearing in your horizon for the 27th on the budget.
That I'll make the motion that the Board of Commissioners schedules a public hearing regarding the physical,
Fiscal.
physical, what did I say?
Physical.
It's okay.
Fiscal.
Fiscal.
Fiscal. Well, I'm from Benzie, so here we go. 24-25 budget. My eyes aren't all that good either. On August 27th, 2024. Oh, you got a bigger,
There's a motion, is there support?
Janat supports.
I'm not sure what he said.
There's a motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
yes.
Worsakki.
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes,
Janat,
Yes,
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
motion carried.
Item B, consider approving ballot language to increase and extend the ALS millage.
So does any of the ad hoc members want to address this? Or would you like me to?
Love it if you did.
Okay. So the EMS millage is coming up for expiration and we have to consider putting it back on the ballot. November is the upcoming election and that is the recommended ballot to place the EMS millage on as a result of an ad hoc committee, as well as staff who joined that ad hoc committee. During the ad hoc committee, we really talked a lot about Benzie EMS, its future operations and where we really want to go with the service. And, you know, some of the things that were identified that were very much in need is really figuring out Station 3 in Frankfurt. There's some issues over there at that building. The other day, they were chasing around a bat to try to catch it, is my understanding. So we have to figure out Station 3. We also have talked now for quite a few years about how the need is really growing to need a full-time third truck. on the road. And that need seems to be getting stronger and stronger every tourist season that comes about us. And so as an ad hoc, we really talked about those future horizon items. And the current millage that was in place is a 0.8. It has rolled down just slightly. And what we're asking the Board of Commissioners today is to adopt a resolution placing ballot language on the November ballot at 0.9. So from a 0.8 to a 0.9 increase. And really that is so that we can grow the service to meet the demand of our community.
I'll make the motion that the Board of Commissioners adopts a resolution submitting to a vote of the electorate, a special millage for county emergency medical and advanced life support services, replacement on the November 5th, 2024 general election ballot.
Second.
Rhonda? There's a motion and support. Is there further discussion?
And this is for 8 years?
7 years. So we talked a lot about the timing of this millage at the ad hoc committee. And part of the reason we did 7 years is to really secure the longevity of this millage. We are under the understanding that there could be potential of additional ALS services coming to Benzie County. And by putting the 7 years in place, that really secures the future of our agency, which is what we want to do for obviously the service we're providing as well as our staff.
So I'm looking at the resolution here with the language,
Mhm.
and unless I'm reading something wrong, it says for a period of 8 years.
Oh, it should say 7. I'll fix that.
This is considered a new village
It is because it's
because
Is an increase, and we also tweaked the language a little bit. So the existing language that's in place kind of leaves some wonder to the average interpretation of a person. And so what we've done is we've tweaked the language just to add some more descriptive language that indicates that we're providing this service to all of Benzie County for the residents of Benzie County or the community of Benzie County, whereas before it was quite vague. And the vagueness kind of caught us in a situation where other agencies were approaching us for some of our money so they could run their own service. And this is meant to be as a Benzie County run service. And so we added some more descriptive language into that so that it was there wasn't so much vagueness in the language.
You have
It's
to,
counted.
because the language says 8 years in the resolution, you have to take that back to the state if you change that.
No, so the state is not involved in our process. Our legal counsel, we draft the language on our own between the legal counsel and I. The state's involved in NMC because they're a community college and that has to go to the state for approval.
Okay, so we can make this to 7 years and.
Yeah, I wrote the resolution and just had Tim Perrone sign off on
Yep.
it, so you're good.
Yeah, I'm not trying to belabor it, because I know the memo says one thing and.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll adjust that.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Sauer,
yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes,
Janai,
Yes,
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs,
Yes.
motion carried.
Katie, do we know how many county millages are gonna be on November's ballot now?
Just for our purposes, EMS and the jail, also the road commission bond was approved, so that'll be on the ballot. And that's technically
Okay.
your bond. But that would be it to my understanding.
Except for the college.
Well, the college is by itself, but yes,
Yeah.
that will be on there.
Yeah, I'm just talking about what
Yeah.
we're.
County specific would be EMS, jail if you approve it here in a few minutes, and the road commission bond.
Okay,
Speaking of which, item C, consider approving ballot language to renew the jail millage.
So last Tuesday, we've already talked about, and most folks know, the jail millage failed at the ballot box. That millage was an increase by 0.171 to account for additional staffing and expenses to operate the jail up the hill. Unfortunately, it did fail, so we've heard from the community loud and clear that they just, more taxes is just not something that they want to dabble into for a service such as jail operations is what it sounds like. So what we're proposing, our office is proposing is to bring forward a renewal in November. I feel that's a safer way to go. Because if we go for an increase and the increase fails again, we've pigeonholed ourselves into zero money for the jail. I'm hopeful that the community will see the renewal and approve the renewal. It's no increase in taxes at all. It'd just be a renewal of what they're currently paying. However, what that does is it does cause us to have to take a really close look at the jail budget and shave off $200,000 to $250,000. That's a hard shave, but it's the hand we've been dealt. The undersheriff and I have been chatting since last Tuesday, almost daily, about what are some of the things we can do, where can we maybe, tighten the belt a little bit. And we've come up with a few ideas as to where to pull that money from if the renewal is approved. So what I'm asking you today is to approve the ballot language for November of a renewal, so just a renewal. And then if we want to get into the little bit of the discussion about where some of the tightening could come from, we can get into that as well. We're prepared for that.
So, I've had my concerns about how well people actually read what's on the ballots.
Mhm.
And that's not a criticism, that's just simply a fact.
Yep.
You believe that this has a better chance to pass by not asking for an increase, but we're gonna have to find a way to message that better.
Mhm.
Otherwise, people are gonna think we're just putting it back up in front of them again.
Right. So we're gonna have to be very clear in the messaging that this is a renewal, this is not an increase, and that this renewal is forcing us to make some really tough decisions as a county when it comes to jail operations. I think that there was maybe some lack of community discussion regarding the increase, which I think hurt in a lot of ways. Also, August, there seemed to be just a lot of rumbling in the community about millages in general, which I think also hurt the whole premise of it all. And so we are just gonna have to be much more diligent all around as a county government to really talk about this in the community and what it means for Benzie County. I think some of that lacked for the August election, unfortunately.
Yeah, because when you look at, like, the Transportation Authority asked for more money than what we were asking for an increase in jail.
Yep.
And their messaging obviously was better because the county, even though they're adverse to taxes, which I'm okay with, but they're willing to spend it there, but not for mandated services.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that if this goes on a November ballot,
Yeah.
it doesn't appear as if we're just putting it back in front of them again,
Correct.
like I've seen other groups do.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, and unfortunately for the county, we can't really spend a lot of money on campaigning like
Right.
the Benzie Transportation Authority can and did. So unfortunately, that's harder. It makes it a little harder for us in getting that message out there because we don't have that ability to hold public events and give away free prizes and, those sorts of things. So I will be expecting of all of you, plus myself and staff, that they're talking about this in the community and getting the word out there as to why we need this.
We want to make a clarification on Commissioner Janot's statement. The jail is not a mandated service.
Elements of it is.
Elements
Right.
of it are.
Right.
So, but we do have a facility we're held to a certain standard because of the number of beds that we have.
Yes, ma'am.
And I have that same concern that we have to, with absolute clarity, need to, if we have it on the November ballot, that the public understands, because it's going to look like we're just putting it out there again. And they've already told us, I know that's exactly what's going to be said. So
Yeah.
when we bring this forth and make the motion today, I'm going to vote how my district said. For example, I know that the way that it was worded on there, that Frankfurt voted for it. So I think it's important, even though it's going to be a renewal, that we're depending on us going to our various meetings and everything and making sure that we communicate that it's not the same thing. So I'm going to vote how my district voted on it, just like it's either a renewal or a refusal.
Don't really understand your position on that because my vote is going to be to give the voters the opportunity to vote on a different on a different approach to this, which is a renewal rather than an increase. I mean, I understand that in my district, the jail increase failed. I wouldn't be voting no for a renewal because they're totally separate things.
Right.
I'm merely voting to put it on the ballot so my community can have their say.
So yes, the community and say, and I am in agreement with that, but what I'm not in agreement with, or that we have to make sure we do, and that is on me in my district to make sure they understand that it's a renewal. If they don't understand that, so you're betting on us in the future being able to better educate and inform our public, is what you're saying. That it's a
I'm not
renewal,
betting.
not
I'm
the same thing.
gambling At all. I'm simply saying I'm going to vote to put a renewal before the community.
And educating your public to let them know
Well,
it's
that's a
a renewal.
responsibility I take on as a commissioner, and I take that seriously. So yeah, I mean, I would agree with that.
And that's
would
what
be
I
my
just, and that's what I said. But if we cannot do that in our districts, I'm just saying this for myself, and you're in agreement with this, that it is up to us to make sure that our public is educated in our districts, wherever we are, that they totally understand, because many, many times, I mean, I've read it as a voter, and I do read millages and everything, that, oh, they're putting it on the ballot again. They're putting it on the ballot. So it is up to me to educate my district that it is a renewal and there is a difference. So I'm just bringing that to the forefront, that we make sure we do that in the best way that we can.
Do we have a motion yet?
No.
No,
I'd look
Jeanette
for one
makes a
though.
motion that the resolution authorizing the millage renewal election for Benzie County Jail Operations millage proposal, certifying ballot language be adopted, placing ballot language on the November 5th, 2004 election.
2024.
Mark will support.
Motion and support. Any further discussion?
This is only for 3 years.
Yes, so that would be encompassing of 2024, 2025, and 2026 tax years. And then in 2026, we'll have to either place it on the ballot again, or maybe that's a year that we're able to reset Headley and it's something that's brought into the general fund at that time. But this would be encompassing of the next 3 tax years, which includes this December.
But Katie, there was specifically why you were looking at the 3 years.
Yeah.
And I talked about this yesterday.
It's to once for funding of this year, otherwise we don't have the money for the 24-25 fiscal. The other reason is because we want to maintain it in the even years of when we go back out to the ballot, so that we're not having to fund special elections.
Tim, you had a comment?
I have more of a question. To get the message out to the public, I mean, yes, commissioners, we're definitely I'll be talking about this at my village and townships. But is this something like the sheriff's office could be maybe participating in the township and village meetings?
I would hope so, that they would come to educate the community on something such as this. Now, obviously, they have to be careful in how they're doing that, so it doesn't appear that they're campaigning or utilizing their position in any way to,
I'll
move
be a
that
cheerleader for it, I guess.
yes, but they could be a cheerleader for it.
Like I would hope like
I don't know if they want to be a cheerleader, but
Ben's EMS would do the same for the EMS match too.
yes.
Morning, Greg.
Good morning, Commissioner Markey. I thought there was a question coming there, so maybe I came up here a little bit prematurely, but we are planning on absolutely cheerleading for it and putting out the strong word. I think it's a matter of public education that this is a renewal and not a hike, and we really need to be front facing as a sheriff's office in getting the word out there and pushing this. When we're looking at $250,000 cut, we're not talking about trimming the fat. I want everybody out there to know that too. We are talking about hard cuts and programs. Programs like the GED program for the inmate. These are all hard cuts in services and shut-offs in services, not less food on your tray. We're talking about hard cuts to services, just want to make sure everybody in the public realizes that, and we are going to move forward and be forward facing and help cheerlead for this. And I'm okay with cheerleading, Katie.
The two
Any
comments that
questions?
I-
I'll get you pom-poms.
the two comments that I would make, and I know that we're using that fairly loosely, but no, you can't be advocating directly for it. You can only be educating
Correct.
the public. And if you had anybody that wanted to come after you, you don't want to put yourself in a position where it looks like you're advocating or selling it.
Correct.
But also, we learned that over the course of the last year that we have one person in the cells with the inmates during evening time. And yeah, we have one in the monitoring room and then one in the where the inmates are at. Yes or no?
Not always, no.
Oh, sometimes there's more than one,
Three.
three.
Total. Three total. Yes,
3 total, so one in the,
yes.
one in the control room,
Uh-huh.
monitoring the cameras and answering the phones and regulating things from there. Some nights, one other, some nights, 2 others.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess I didn't have a full understanding last time, but the point I was going to make is that for me, it's a safety issue too. So,
It is, and if you recall, we made that request to MDOC to reevaluate those positions, and MDOC's recommendation was the addition of 2 positions, and that's where we ended up asking for the additional money. So that was pretty much head on the cost of those 2 positions. We have some hard considerations to make in the future, but I think that with all of us working together, not against each other, we can do this. Any other questions?
Any other comments? All right, we have a motion and support. And this is to consider approving the ballot language for the renewed jail millage. Roll call.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janat,
yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes,
Sauer,
Yes.
motion carried.
thank you all. Item D, consider authorizing administration to make necessary amendments and adjustments to the balance to balance the 23-24 fiscal year budget.
This is an annual housekeeping item when we approach the end of the current fiscal year. The Board of Commissioners gives our office the authorization to balance the budget in preparation for the auditors coming to visit us. And so this is the same memo you've seen the last 3 years at this time.
Make a motion that the Board of Commissioners authorizes the county administrator to make budget
I'm
transfers
not allowed to.
between departments and funds to balance the 23-24 budget for all funds.
Also.
Did I cut you off?
Gary?
So I was interrupted.
Oh.
This one could have went on the consent agenda.
And I responded with, it's not allowed to based on the direction I was given by the board.
Gary, you supported that?
Yes.
Thank you.
I only wonder with the new change in the administrator's contract, adding controller to, wouldn't these duties fall under that heading as administrator controller with
So-
Bentley County?
Yeah, the duties do, which I've been doing the last few years, but I need the action from you to start the time clock essentially. So that's what this does, is it starts the time clock in the sense of, hey, everyone who's managing their own budgets, including elected officials, the budget is now our offices, and don't do anything hasty. Starts the time clock for that balancing process.
Roll call vote, please.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
motion carried.
Item E, consider a budget amendment to extend the Marine Patrol program.
We are looking to do a budget amendment from fund balance in the Marine Patrol Fund to extend the program. With some of the changes at the Coast Guard and the need for response on the lakes, we are seeing that this program, it would be beneficial to expand it in its timing. And so what we're looking to do is expand it through the Ironman event in mid-September, which is about $6,000 to do that.
Do we
And
have the-
write a letter to the Coast Guard and let them know that, hey, your changes are causing this issue.
Do we have an opportunity to have Ironman fund? I mean, I know that the Ironman funds other municipalities for, okay,
Yeah, so the, you'll recall you have an agreement with Ironman, and the reason that the other municipalities are now getting money is because we said, hey, you're gonna pay us. So the Ironman will reimburse us for all out-of-pocket cost. So I need the budget amendment now to fix the budget so we can make this happen, but we will get a lot of that money back from the Ironman.
Make the motion.
Thank
That the Board of Commissioners approves a budget amendment in the amount of $6,000 to Marine Patrol Fund to extend the program period into September.
I will second.
Motion and support. Any further discussion?
My only discussion is I think it's time to reach out to Bergman's office and some of these other ones and put the pressure on the Coast Guard because this summer's been terrible. I gotta thank our sheriff's department for what they've done, but that is their responsibility, especially with all this federal land up here. That's the only place I can figure to start, so I'm trying to push it from there. We'll see what happens.
Good. Anybody else? Roll call?
Knapp,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki.
Yep.
Cunningham,
Yes,
motion carried.
thank you.
Item F. Consider committing defederalized CDBG funding to home repairs for residents.
So the Benzie County works with the Community Action Agency to facilitate community development block grant funds for home repairs here in Benzie County. Those program requirements indicate that in any year, there's less than $35,000 in payoff of an existing loan that's out there. Those funds become general fund and at the pleasure of the Board of Commissioners. This year, for last year, so 2023, the amount of money that came back to the county, the payoff, was 19,000 and some change. So it's under the $35,000. So those funds become defederalized and technically can be used for general purposes. We are recommending, however, though, because we really want to continue to carry out this program and we really want to support the community to keep those funds as if they're federalized, as if they're part of the program requirements, and continue to grant and loan those funds out to the community for home repairs for those who are can afford to do it on their own. You have the right to say no as the Board of Commissioners. That can become your general dollars, but we are recommending that they stay within the program, even though they didn't meet that $35,000 threshold to keep them in the program.
ADM, I chair that agency of which falls under that umbrella. Or do I need to abstain from that vote?
You represent Benzie County on that committee, right? So
As
no,
chair, right?
no.
Okay,
If you were their staff person or such, yes.
okay.
But because you're representing us as a member, then no.
Just avoiding criticism. that's
Yep.
all.
If there's no other comments, or I'd still like a motion.
Janelle will make the motion that the Board of Commissioners designates $19,224.04 in defederalized CDG funds to home repairs for Benzie County residents, with the Community Action Agency managing such funding, with reports to be submitted to the Board of Commissioners within 12 months of funding commitment.
Support Cunningham.
Do I understand correctly that when is this on a revolving basis? When these improvements are made, they go as a lien on the property and then it comes back to them? I mean, there's a pool of money sitting out there that's yet to be.
Correct.
Right, for things, because when the properties transfer or anything, those become payable.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep.
If it's $2,500 or less, it's
It's-
forgivable. It's just a grant.
Yep.
Over 2,500 becomes a lien.
Yep.
We did have a housing committee that addressed these things.
Right.
We disbanded the housing committee, brought it to this board.
Yep.
And last I saw, Rhonda, we had about $800,000 in receivables
Yes,
that will be coming in over the course of time.
yes, which could be in a year, it could be
Yep.
30 years.
That's what
We
was
don't
in
know.
my head. I just wanted to
yeah.
put it on the table.
And
make sure I'm
so-
Understanding that correctly.
Transfer of title triggers the
Yep.
payment.
So this is, new to you in a sense, because typically we have over that $35,000 threshold. So those funds maintain their federalized status and they fall within the programs for the following year. That's the money that's revolving. So this hasn't come before you because we haven't had a less than $35,000 come back in the past. So because it's less than 35,000, the program says, well, that's the county's purview now because it was less than the 35,000. So that's why you're seeing this is because you have to take action as to what you're going to do with that money because it's now under your purview and not the CDBG fund purview.
This is one of those programs that's rarely spoken about in this community, but has had great benefits
Huge.
to it. I've sat in that committee now on behalf of the board for 8 years, and it's impressive what's going on that, quite frankly, most of the community doesn't even know about. It's all public information, but we don't share it.
Yeah, the program, it's new roofs, it's new water heaters, it's new furnaces, it's new windows. Obviously, there's different qualifications needed for the different types of funding, if it's grant versus loan and such. But really, these programs are designed to help those vulnerable folks in our community who have a huge need that they can't address on their own. These programs help address those needs to keep people in their homes.
And the entry level information, making residents aware of these programs is usually bacon and.
Gathering place,
gathering place.
yes.
Gathering Place, Bacon. I think DHHS maybe shares some of this programming as well. My understanding is maybe some churches have some of this information. We have a link on our website to the Community Action Agency. But we could do more. It's just a matter of what else should we do? Because we do want people in the community to know these funds are available, versus going cold all winter. We'd rather work with them and hopefully get them a new furnace.
And
Yeah.
that was my question too. How did the education of that and how people know? And then who decides? Is it the committee
Community Action
that
Agency.
allocates the?
So that's all been delegated to a committee within the Community Action Agency now. A
Okay.
few years ago, not many, we decided we wanted to contract everything out to them so that they vet the applicant also.
Vetting.
And there's specific guidelines they have to follow. They do a better job than we ever did.
Okay.
And we rely on Community Action Agency to get the word out there for us. And as your representative, I'm putting this in, I sit on their housing committee also. And we're putting that out there all the time. These agencies that was described, those are the best ways to get to these folks.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, Community Action Agency has other funds that people will go into their organization to access, and we will look for a way to marry these. So like sometimes they may need something from Community Action Agency, but qualify for a $2,500 grant. They didn't even know that. And then we put them together, and
Wow, great. Thank you.
it is good program. That's been here since the 80s. Again, most people didn't know about it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else, we do have a motion and support. Be a roll call vote.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Not,
Yes.
motion carried.
Item G. Consider appointing the employer and employee delegate for the annual MERS conference.
Yes, so it's that time of year again where the annual conference of MERS is coming up. It's fast approaching in October, and it will be held in Grand Rapids at the Amway. We have went through the process of doing a secret ballot election of the employees because one delegate and an alternate are considered employee delegates. And then we also have the employer delegate role to fill as well. The employer delegate is chosen by you today. The employee delegates are in the motion. Those were chosen by the staff of amongst their peers. And so you will see that when it comes to the employee delegates, we had 3 individuals who were interested. One was Deputy Suzanne Mull, my assistant in our office, Rose Roloffs, as well as Corrections Officer Michael Bender. We put out a survey ballot, and Suzanne Mull was chosen as the delegate and Rose was chosen as the alternate delegate. So if for some reason Suzanne can't go, Rose would go in her place. But then as far as the officer delegate, that has to be an elected official, myself, or one of you. Gary has indicated he is interested in going and would go. Kelly Long has also indicated that she's interested in going. However, she may have some commitments at that time, given what we just talked about, babies. So
Push them off.
if any of the yeah,
Okay.
so it's up to you to make the decision as to who's the employer delegates, main delegate and alternate delegate, and the motion is in your packet.
I'll volunteer to be the alternate. You're the designee, right?
No, we're gonna go with her. We're going with Kelly.
You're going with.
She's
Kelly.
having
I'm going, you
babies.
can't go, right? Is that-
No, so we only send, we only send one delegate.
Be the alternate.
So it's either, it's two of the three of you.
Oh, okay, no, it's all yours. You're good.
You wanna be the alternate? That'll get me completely out of this.
No, I misunderstood that. We're
Yeah,
good.
Kelly, do you anticipate that you can meet this obligation?
Don't know.
You need to schedule that.
I can do the alternate.
You need to schedule that a little bit better.
Never works out that way.
All right, I'm gonna make a motion that the Board of Commissioners selects Kelly Long as the officer delegate and Gary Sauer as the alternate officer delegate to attend the annual MERS conference in October 2024 and further affirm Suzanne Mall as the employee delegate and Rose Roloffs as the alternate employee delegate to attend such conference.
Mark will support.
Motion and support. Roll call, please.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janai,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
motion carried.
We have 10 o'clock. Mr. Tim Malone. If you'd like to give your presentation, sir.
I
Hey,
just
Steiny.
wanna ask- Somebody's coming with a set of keys, so if I walk out, I'm not handing it to everybody. Just to
Good.
let you know.
Yep.
So in your packet was a small report from Tim as to what's going on with broadband. Also on your desk this morning was a series of maps related to the broadband project. And so I will let Tim take it away.
Thank you. So the first question is to ask you if you have any questions. And what are you hearing from? We're very happy with, very pleased with progress we're making. Response has been great.
I would say just as a general, when we started this project, you had a projected a deliverable of number of homes you were gonna serve. What was that number?
So 5,100 are the homes we're gonna pass.
You're gonna pass.
The state funded 1,400.
Okay, and where are we at as far as reaching that goal?
So for Crystal Lake and Inland Township, we passed 1,200 homes.
Okay.
Of the 1,200, we have permission to connect 100, slightly over 100. In Elmira and Homestead, it's permitted and construction should start this fall. That'll be 1,900 homes. The work in Crystal Lake Township. Getting to Frankfurt, that tower build is complete. So we're at the 911 tower now. So, those are the numbers I've been given to know where we're at.
So 30. So you passed 3,100. You
Yeah,
have,
we-
are
we-
eligible to sign up at this point. Is that the correct number out of the 5,100?
Yes,
Okay, and with and the remaining 2,000 are,
our part
We're
of
working towards that.
Joyfield.
Okay.
And.
that helps
Benville.
me. Thank you.
Tim, to answer your question directly, I've heard nothing but positive about what you guys are doing.
The only thing I've heard against him is he can't get Mercury to
Oh,
figure out.
Yeah,
That is fault.
that's, yeah.
and
And that's not his fault.
so I don't have an update on Mercury. What I can say is the industry chatter is that the MyHigh office has delayed sending the database to the NTIA for approval. That's an indication that more forfeits on RDOF have been submitted. What those are have not been shared. Not that we want any provider fail or forfeit an obligation. But for the areas of Benzie County that are providers that haven't started, it seems better that they would forfeit and make that available for beads. But we'll see where that goes. That means that bead funding won't actually happen in probably till mid 2026. So before this delay, it was the beginning of 2026. So beads, you can hear a lot of discussion about it. But until the state proves that they're passing and funding 100% of all the households that are unserved or underserved, NTIA won't release the money. So there's multiple rounds that go through, contracts are signed, and then the NTIA reads all that and then approves it and funding starts. And so the anticipation is middle of 2026. And we will be going after every unserved and underserved home that's on the map for Benzie County. Let's see. The other, so from a beads perspective, I gave a little bit of a strategy of what's happening there. The first step, we've been asked by the My High office to do the pre-application sooner than later. I think the pre-application is they're going to do certain notices to those who have expressed interest. And so this week, we're going to get it on the schedule and start the pre-application process for Benzie and across our Knuckles area. We have decided this year to be a silver sponsor for Merit. That's going to be at Crystal Mountain. That gives us a 45-minute presentation window. And what we're going to do is highlight the projects that we feel have brought on collaboration, not only with the government, but with other organizations. And so we will be inviting Katie to be a presenter to highlight Benzie County and its collaborative effort with us. Along with that, the Sioux Tribe and the UP, which we have a agreement to operate and build their fiber network for their 15,000 members. They've agreed to be at the table to show the collaborative effort between that government and Cloverland Electric, the co-op. And so we're looking for one more collaborative effort to bring to the table. We don't want to really highlight Cherry Capital. We want to highlight the fact that working with private and public and governments is the way to go, solving the problem rather than monopolies. But so we're kind of excited about that. And did I hear that Robin or the Benzie won the DEI? That good say?
Submitting yesterday,
Cool.
yep.
And that's an aspect of working together. I mean, we started off with an ARPA contribution. The state puts 1.8 million. Now there's $800,000 for Benzie to actually influence 10 counties, I believe, is
Yep.
the area. Benzie County really looks good at the state level and the federal level, and it should. They put a lot of effort towards it, and we're really excited to be part of that effort.
We're going to
Right.
Beaver Island, guys.
So that hopefully that results
That's
in
part of our
economic development and everything else that you want from that exposure. So congratulations there. Open access, we finally got our website up.
Okay.
I used to be a web developer and IT guy, and I so desperately wanted to jump in and get it done, but I can't do that. I got to run the company. But we did decide to cancel a local contract because it wasn't going anywhere. We did pick a company out of Sweden who's known for open access COS systems. They do have local offices in Detroit. They were able to take our maps, and if you're within that map area, you're an on-net, put in your address. If your address comes up, then you know you're within our route to build to you. And then we have what's called a near net, off net. I got an email this morning from somebody who's in the near net. They're about 2,500 feet off of that map. And if you are, it'll accept your address and will give serious consideration for all near net, quarter mile to a mile off our route. And those that are off net are within the township itself, but maybe greater than a mile away. And we'll bundle those up and make that the next set of projects. It's kind of an overview of where we're at. Other questions? Thank you for inviting me to talk. I like getting out of the office. I don't get out much. So,
The
Thanks for
website
the
works
update.
too.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate the update, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
The website works too, and it's, as soon as you go to their website, it's right there on the homepage, so
Hey,
fiber.com. And you can key in your address and it populates and you go from there.
Just did it.
Me too.
So then, once we get the piece with integrated, with technical platform, we will actually.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Dave, what was that website?
CCCfiber.com.
No WW in front of it, just CCC.
You don't have
Yeah,
to, but you
Okay.
can.
Move on to item H. Consider authorizing the service agreement with the Schaefer Company LLC for recycling coordinator duties.
So as the board is aware, we have lost our recycling coordinator a couple of months ago. And so the position has been vacant and our office has really been managing all things recycling. We've been answering the phones and emails and hosting the events and such. So what we did at the direction of the board was publish an RFP for an individual or a firm to really carry out those duties on a contracted short-term basis, to take those off our plate in our office, because while we've been doing it for a few months, we're starting to drown. And so we published an RFP. We were successful in receiving 3 proposals to carry out these services. 2 were local, 1 was not local. 1 actually was housed in Alaska, which I found very interesting. And so we went to the SWAC committee, and Commissioner Cunningham serves on that committee, and we really got into the weeds and talking about the proposals at the committee as to who's really going to best suit Benzie County for this interim basis. 2 of the proposals were actually affiliated or were members on our SWAC committee, which is interesting. But as a result of all the discussion at the SWAC committee and after our office reviewed the proposals as well, the recommendation is to move forward with Dave Schaefer, for Dave Schaefer to manage those services for the next 12 months while we kind of figure out what we're doing from here as we get into this MMP rewrite. And so that proposal is $6,000 a month for 12 months. There is budget for that. I know that may seem like a lot, but the other proposals were almost double. Actually, 1 was over double, 1 was close to double. And so this is the low bidder. This person also has prior experience with Benzie County, as well as serving as Grand Traverse County's resource recovery person. So this person is very well versed in all things happening right now with materials management in Michigan. I actually met with the regional representative from MMP at the state level. And when I indicated the name of the person being recommended, they knew them immediately and thought very highly of them because of their knowledge in this space. So the recommendation is to move forward with Schaefer Company LLC, which is Dave Schaefer, for a period of 12 months to really manage these services for us. And then once we start approaching that 12-month period, we'll reevaluate where we're at in the process when it comes to the planning rewrite, the services he's providing, and kind of what we're doing with recycling here in Benzie County to go forward.
Was Dave still on the SWAC board
He is, yes.
even when this decision was made?
So he was not part of the recommendation. He abstained.
I would make the motion, I will make the motion that the Board of Commissioners authorizes a 1-year service agreement with Schaefer Company LLC to provide recycling coordinator duties for Benzie County in the amount of $6,000 monthly, with the funds available in the 228 fund. Such agreement subject to approval by legal counsel and authorizes the chair to sign.
Second.
Okay,
Motion and support. Is there further discussion?
couple of questions.
Yep.
What, how does this cost compare to what we had been paying?
So this is more than the individual's salary, but when you put in the total compensation, it's right in line.
Okay. And what will be left for your office to have to do once you bring them on board?
Really nothing. There may be some straggling phone calls and emails just because people have gotten a little bit in a rhythm of contacting us versus calling downstairs. So there may be some stragglers along the way. We will also coordinate with him to fix the truck so that the truck is available for the events and the site cleanup and such. But from there really shouldn't be much involvement from our office other than, check-ins and kind of working through any questions that there may be, and any coordination that may come up. But I don't see a lot of involvement from here on out.
So the Schaefer will be responsible for making sure that the sites are clean.
With the site attendants, yes.
And the site attendants, do we pay them in addition to what we pay him?
Yep, we've actually been heavily relying on our site attendants for the last couple of months. We hire them separately as seasonal part-time individuals. And so we'll evaluate whether or not we still need two. The one person who's serving as a second site attendant really came on as an interim basis to help us out for a little while. So I don't see the second site attendant staying on much longer. It would just be the one main site attendant who assists, which is the same setup we had when Jesse was here.
And the hope would be that when someone notices that there's an issue at the site, they would be calling Schaefer, not you, right?
Yeah, so we will forward the phone. So right now Jesse's phone downstairs, all is forwarded to our office. So what we'll end up doing is changing that forward so that when those general numbers are called, they're going to him and not us.
Perfect.
So as a company that's going to oversee this, they're not actually physically maintaining the sites. They're just running the events for 6,000 a month.
He will also help to maintain the sites, but because we have so many and the summer is so wild, we've always brought on part-time site attendants during those peak months to help with that. As it slows down, that person does it less and even stops doing it into the winter. But during these peak seasons, it really takes more than one person to manage those sites. We've had two people doing it and they're being checked daily, and we still get numerous daily phone calls about how dirty they are. It's unfortunately, we are in this community and it's not, I don't want to say it's necessarily our residents, but unfortunately, I think a lot of it's the tourist. They're very abusive of our recycling sites, and we could have people there all day, every day, if we could afford it. It's kind of sad.
Mr. Schaefer have other employment besides?
Yeah, so it's my understanding he's working for himself. He's quit Grand Traverse County and he's working for himself. So.
That helps.
So he'll be managing the phones, managing the emails, cleaning up the sites, which includes mowing and pickup and those, coordinating all the vendors for the different recycling that are picked up 3 to 4 days a week, as well as our events we have throughout the summer. And he's really, we've been talking I've talked to him about how do we start incorporating businesses into our program? How do we maybe incorporate cardboard back into our program? Because cardboard seems to be one of the biggest issues as to why we can't keep it clean anymore is because of the cardboard and the businesses. And so, I'm really hoping that he can kind of implement some of those tweaks and changes while we're in this weird interim phase so that we can make the program better, as well as more appealing to the average person who drives by.
As I understand it, he's going to be a contractor, not an employee.
That is correct.
Right.
Yeah.
We're going to provide him with the vehicle.
So he will be able to use the recycling truck when it's needed. So to pick up stuff, we bring it to the events because it's full of batteries and whatnot. So yes, he wouldn't have it full time, but it would be as needed for the duties related to this.
And then it's also education. Again, I'm glad you brought that up as far as businesses. This is a residential program.
Correct.
You know, and just helping share that information because it does seem through our SWAC committee that it is a lot of the businesses that are using it. And we just need to re-educate. It's a residential program.
My understanding too is we have an issue with short-term rentals, not allowing their guests to leave
Yes.
garbage. And so this is the consequence of that. That this is an alternative for folks leaving the community.
Yes, ma'am. So, there are some bad players out there, when it comes to the short-term rentals. You know, a lot of the short-term rental agreements say you must take your trash. And so naturally, as people are heading out of town, they see it says GFL or American Waste and they throw their trash there, even though it's recycling. And so, you know, I mentioned that to the city of Frankfurt because their ordinance is specific about the trash and it doesn't require, their permitting process doesn't require the short-term rental to have trash service, but it does indicate that the trash has to be taken. And so I've mentioned to them about, is there opportunity to address these ordinances? Other ordinances in the region, they require trash service at the short-term rental so that things are kept up. There's just not. And so maybe there's an opportunity to tweak that to help with that because it does appear that a lot of the bad players are short-term rental guests, unfortunately.
Interesting.
I do have just
Yep.
a quick question. When does this start?
So you would approve it today and then legal counsel would have to draft everything. And then we'd have to sign it from there. So I'm hoping by week's end that we can have Dave in here and kind of go through things and, you know, give
Yes.
him the phone and that sort of thing and get him rolling right
My
quick.
only concern was you have one more major event. You gonna be on board before that or not?
He's already planning to help us out with that event. Yep. So thankfully,
All right,
if anyone
there's-
else wants to, road commission, the 24th, 9 a.m.
we do have a
there.
motion and support. Roll call, please.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Worsakki,
Yes.
Cunningham.
Yes.
Janai,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
motion carried.
So before we move on, how much time are you gonna need, Tony?
Really depending upon you, on my presentation.
We do have a 10:30 with our attorney.
I can delay Matt 10 minutes.
Okay. Then I'd welcome Tony Rudidovich from MERS.
Good morning, and thank you for inviting me to your Board of Commissioners meeting. My name's Tony Rudinovich. I'm the regional manager for MERS. My region is the northern half of the Lower Peninsula, basically. And I've been with MERS. I'm in my 17th year. And so it's good to hear that you've gone through the election process and have delegates coming to the MERS conference. Their role is primarily to attend the business meeting, vote for our board that then is the fiduciary of your retirement plans. But before I get into these, my presentation today, I do want to give out recognition to one of your employees, Jackie Helfen. You can?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we rely on the staff members at all of our employers to provide us information so that we can provide the administration of those pensions. And well, we had an issue where you were working with Katie Russo. And she loves you. And so what it was is that there was a retiree. And when Katie Russo is a retirement analyst, her job is to make sure that the record of that employee is correct and accurate so that benefit that's going to be paid to that employee is correct and that they're going to be in retirement and no questions. Well, there was a situation where there was an employee here, they had part-time and full-time, and we had to do some, let's say, amendments to the record. Well, it's kind of difficult to do. And so this is just some notes from Katie. She was saying that she was wondering if there was a way that we could recognize you. for what you did. And she just goes, because Jackie's awesome, with like 3 exclamation points. And then she said that, she was a delightful to work with. She said, you're prompt, you're nice, you know what's going on.
Oh.
And she says that we had this real difficult issue and that you were just great to work with. And the reason she wanted to recognize it, because sometimes when we do this, it's a lot of work for you. And we understand that. And so there's a little note here from Katie, and then just a token of our appreciation, some merch swag, just so that you remember, you know, how to contact us when you gotta talk to Katie about another person. So thank you so much for all that you do. It was extraordinary because sometimes that request goes sideways and it's really hard to deal with. And so, because, oh, she said, thank you very much for the camping recommendation.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, she came up here to Benzie County or near here and she spent a family vacation. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's
Yes.
very lovely. It was an honor to work with her as well.
Yes, and so we're glad to represent Benzie County as Region 3 team, and Jackie thought it was great. Thought that you needed. Thank you. for all
Thank
that
you.
do.
Thank you very much. Very lovely. Thank
You're welcome. I'll pass it on to Katie.
Thanks, Tony.
And that's what we do. We partner with our communities, with our employers on what we need to do to administer pensions for your employees. And so when I come up here, I usually only talk about the defined benefit plan because that's what you guys had for so long. But you know, you've been transitioning your defined benefit plan into a defined contribution plan. And your staff may or may not be aware that we can give plan statistics on your defined contribution plan. And so I'm going to just run down a few of these real quickly. The report doesn't come out nice, so I may have to search here. But since you've gone into defined contribution, as of the date of this report, and I ran it today, and so it's as of the 9th, that there's approximately $644,000 collectively in the defined contribution plan. So it's grown. And your members are putting in that money. You may or may not know that your employees are mandated or required to put in 6% into the defined contribution. As the county, depending on their years of service, I think you start out with contributing 2, and if they get to 5 years, it gets to a total of 7 from the county.
Yes.
So that's a fairly, once they stay here for 5 years, it's a fairly robust amount of money going into their retirement plan. 6% from the county, or excuse me, 7% from the county and 6% from the employees. That's comparable to the amount of money it would cost for your old defined benefit plan. And if that money is invested well and it grows, we hope, and they stay here a long time, because all retirement programs, the longer they stay, the better it gets. And so we hope that that's going to provide them the retirement programs that they need to retire. So your defined contribution plan, I believe, is working. I hope it's attracting and retaining the employees as that portion of your compensation package to them. I know you have wages and you have, you know, healthcare and you have other like insurances and stuff like that. So I hope that is fulfilling the role that it should, and it's as crafted by this board to do so. So your defined benefit plan, it is a mature plan. It is now closed. That means that only, did I say there was 49 actives in the defined contribution?
Yeah.
Around there. There's there's some people, I think one person terminated. There's other people that haven't, they're not old enough to draw, but they will be someday. Well, they know, they will be, or their beneficiaries will.
Yes.
So the defined benefit plan, it's mature. You have in that plan, I don't know, did you give the report? I see it on the table in
have the
front of you,
reports,
yeah.
yeah.
So just to go over the demographic information first, because that's real important. That would be on page 20 of the report. This is dated 12/30, the data is from 12/31/2023. And it continues on page 23 by division, page 20 through to page 21. You see that in the defined benefit plan, you have 248 participants. And the reason I bring that number up is many times we forget about those that are currently retired. You have active employees of 59, you have 36 employees that are vested, but yet not old enough to earn, draw that benefit. You have 52 employees that put some money in with their member contributions. They're not yet vested, so they can't draw the benefit. So they have two options. One is to ask for a refund of those member contributions or get service time coordinated at another municipality through MERS of MERS or Act 88. And we send out letters to those pending refunds that those are their options on a yearly basis. So you have a fair amount of people in your system. So when we talk about your liabilities and your assets, you have liabilities here and assets here to back those retirements. And it's based on a total of 248 people. So going back to page 6 at the start of the executive summary, your funding position, and a funding position means that you have liabilities or values of pensions earned and assets held on account in which to fund those liabilities. And that's 67% funded. And that's an actuarial number, not a market rate number. And so that is probably the biggest thing. When people look at the executive summary, they go, what's our funding position? And that's just one indicator, snapshot in time, 12/31 of each year, we give this annual report out to you. This report will tell you what your required contributions are to fund that plan. Since you closed it, you still have active members in it. You still are paying out retirees, and that's going to happen for a long time, for decades into the future. I think I closed our last meeting in January of 2022. So you could have someone that was hired just before that, working here for 30 more years. And then they're going to be retired for 30 more years. So you can still be in this defined benefit plan, for decades. Understood? Any questions on that?
Yeah, I just want to go back with the numbers real quick,
Yeah.
if you don't mind questions as we're going. You said there were 248 in the defined benefit. I've got 59 active, and maybe it's in here. I apologize.
It is,
but
it's on page 21.
21.
Yeah.
Okay, 59 active, 39 vested, 52 not vested, but eligible. And so what are the 98 others?
Oh, retiree,
They're
and beneficiaries.
retired
Yeah.
and drawing,
Yes,
retired and drawing. Okay, thank you. I apologize. Trying
no
to keep the
worries.
numbers.
Always ask questions. This report is just one layer of the information that we provide to our employers. We provide this report, but we have to follow state law, federal law. We have a plan document. We have an investments board that invests the dollars that you send to us. We work with our consulting actuaries to develop our assumptions on how to, we're trying to pre-fund this. A defined benefit plan is pre-funded. We try to fund it while they're working. In many cases, we were doing that, but when changes happen, sometimes you get unfunded accrued liabilities when assumptions do not accurately predict the experience of the plan. That can cause liabilities where over the last few years, starting in 2014, we started to go to more conservative assumptions than we had previously. So by having more conservative assumptions, that meant that we added liability, because the way that you fund this is it's based on assets and liabilities. So if liabilities go up, that means funding is going to go down. That causes costs to go in. And some of those changes were like people are living longer. So if they're living longer, they're going to get more monthly paycheck. We changed the life tables twice in the last 10 years. We also have reduced the assumed rate of return coming out of the global market meltdown of 2008. We dropped the long-term rate of return from what was standard for so long of 8%, and we slowly been picking it down. We're currently at 6.93. The state is at 6.9. We are almost in step with them. That's an important thing to know because your auditor will tell you that we have to have standardized reporting due to Public Act 202. And so we put that information in to meet those standard requirements so you can do your reporting. But that's sort of putting in line those assumptions with the state. And when we did that, we made more conservative assumptions just on those two items, those two levers. That caused liabilities to go up. People are living longer, more checks. We're going to earn less. We're expecting to earn less money on the money that we have. So therefore, you have to pay more money to fund it. That doesn't affect our investment performance. Our investment performance has been quite good over the long term. However, in 2022, we did have a loss of about 10%. In 2023, we had a gain around 14%. And therefore, we're smoothing in those losses while also recognizing those gains. But in any given 1 year, we only recognize 1/5 of the loss or the gain. So instead of it being like this, it's more smooth out so that your budgets can keep up with it. With that said, in this report, we do include a budget for you, and we do it in table form and graphical form on page 12. You can see the tabled form. And we do it in case you want to be in three different long-term rates of return: 6.93, 5.93, or 4.93. So those that want to be really conservative, they say, well, what if we have a more conservative long-term rate of return? Well, that means funded position would go down and costs would go up, but you can see what it would be if that ended up having to be the case. Currently, you're at 67% funded. You're going to go down to 66, 65, 64, then back up. That's because we're working in those losses of 2022. So you'll see that after 2026, the loss of 2022 will have been recognized, and then we start moving back up. You can see those costs. We're assuming part of the reason that the costs are going up is because we're going to assume that you're going to have payroll increases every year. That may or may not happen. We adjust what the reality is every year in the annual evaluation. So if your experience that you're having here at Benzie County is a 2% increase every year, then we'll be in line. If it's less, we'll adjust it. If it's more, we'll adjust it. If you look at the graph on page 13, the solid blue line, if you have the colored printed version, will show you that you will move towards 100% funded in the defined benefit plan. You'll be there in 2040, 100% funded. As you can see, your required contributions to fund it in 2040 will be about a little over $1.5 million. Then the next year it drops off to about $100,000 a year. If you ever wanted to flatten out that curve, you put more money in now and you'd pay less later. But you can see this forecast here shows you that you got 16 more years of moving. If all the assumptions are met, moving towards 100% funding, then this plan is fully funded and you'll have less people in the defined benefit plan. We'll have funded those retirees, and the investment returns will continue to fund a fair share of those retirement benefits. And we hope that the plan is that you would stay at 100% funded if the assumptions are met. And that is the short version. So what questions do you have about, I know I think I'm at my 15 minutes. So
You're probably over.
what?
I'm gonna ask you one anyway.
What questions do you have?
My concern, and we've argued about this constantly, is increasing the funding. What's the benefits of increasing the funding? to lower our liability, and everybody's, the rest of the board seems to believe that if we just stay on course, we're gonna be good. Can you explain what the benefits would be?
So MERS so our history is really no indicator of what's going to happen in the future when it comes to investments. That's how all of our financial planners tell us that. But over the long term, we have exceeded what we assume to be our long-term rate of return. Though there are years where we've lost money. We lost money in 22, we lost money in 18. We lost money in 2008. Now, we don't lose like the general markets do because our system is set up to protect, primarily to protect against losses, but participate on the upside. So if you put more money in now and you have the budget to do so, what that means is, like I said, if you put more money in now, what you have to fund later would be less than it otherwise would have been. If you ever had enough money and you got to 120% funded, most of the time it is shown that the ebbs and flows in the markets and demographics changes can withstand, and you'll never really drop below 100% funded. But it's hard to get there. It's extremely hard to get there. There are some groups that have done that, maybe as a municipal a unit, or maybe just one division, but it's really hard to get there. And so you can have a self-funding pension plan once you get around 120% funded. Some people think that that is advantageous, but it takes a lot of money to get there. And so and there's no guarantee that you won't have losses. But those, so you're in the market, and over the long term, a little over 8% has been our long-term rate of return, right around 8%. And when you go to the annual meeting, you'll see Deb, our our CIO, show you how we have taken $10,000 over the last 30 years and how much money that has made, and showing you that we have outperformed our assumed rate of our long-term assumed rate of return. But when we do that, there are losses, and that, like 2022, we're showing you the impact of a 10% loss in 2022. It's going to drop our funded position down because those monies aren't there. So is it good to do so? It really depends on your budget. Can you follow this this projected increase, or can you put more money in now to level it off?
That 8% return, over what period of time is that?
When we put that in there, we usually go from like the mid-80s to the current year.
Okay.
And it's not like that's what our goal is. That's just what we've done.
Sure.
But our long-term rate of return right now is 6.93, and we have been moving into, since we're such a mature system, to stay around, to stay closer to our long-term rate of return. So we have been transitioning our portfolio due to the high interest rates that are available now, to have more of that secure money in those more secure, less volatile investments. But they still have to participate in stocks and to generate enough income to meet our assumed rate of return.
The definition for duration of long-term, is that 10 years?
We did. I don't think we put on a year number for our long-term rate of return. It is basically perpetuity. That's what we're trying, because these plans last, for lifetimes. So we haven't defined it by a block of years.
And we have had some discussion about funding it all at one time at the beginning of the year. Can you discuss the benefits or not of doing that?
So if you put all your money in January, what we expect you to pay in one a fiscal year, or you put it in whenever your fiscal year starts, it shows October 1st here, the entire required amount. If the markets from that point in time did well, you would get all of those earnings. You wouldn't miss on any of them for that year's worth of asset input.
Mhm.
But if it's you put all that money in, and then we have October 1st, we have an end of the year decline, then you'd have to be catching up to it. So it's sort of like, is it, dollar cost averaging or market timing? And which do you prefer? And that is your choice.
I think what we need to look at is, what are we getting as we hold on to the cash versus if we give it to you? I don't know what we're getting as a rate of return right now, probably about five and
This-
a half.
In this climate, you're doing much better than you did a few years ago.
I'm gonna talk about through MERS, but
Yeah. I'm talking about outside of MERS.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of financial directors and treasurers, and they were years ago, they go, we want to put it in MERS, we're a little better. Now they're going, well, we're doing all right with outside sources.
I became a commissioner in 2019, and at that point in time, it was the practice of this board to make large payments.
Mhm.
I believe I think there were at least 4 that were made during that time, and you probably have it in the charts. And when you were here last time, I really tried to see the impact of those statement or those extra payments. I need to see, Commissioner Sauer is very much in favor and has been argumentatively to make these extra payments because he sees at other entities that they're better funded than the county is. I struggle with seeing the benefit of making those payments on the charts that you provide.
So we have worked with this visual data software firm called GovInvest, and they do, it's a visual data, and you can put in impact on funded position and required contributions if certain lump sum was put in. It's limited to a 5-year projection. If you wanted to do a longer projection, it's something we'd have to get our actuaries involved in, and they'd have to, you have to pay for that service. But the service that we provide through this total liability calculator, when we partner with GovInvest, MERS paid for that to give you a 5-year projection of what if scenarios. And I can work with the staff here at Benzie County to show what that would be. So send me an email, what you're looking for. I'll show you how to get on. It's kind of cool. It's a really cool tool. I really enjoy it because it does illuminate what those contributions do or don't do. And so you can decide if that's something that you'd like to do.
I do see from 2019, we have not improved our position.
We have changed yours.
As a funding percentage. And so to me, that's indicative of the idea that staying the course is a better route. When you make a statement like you did, that if we were not to make extra payments, we will be fully
will.
funded within 15 to 16 years, 2040. I would need a very, very substantive argument for additional payments. My other comment is I've looked for forums where this is discussed. It's very difficult to find conversations about MERS funding. Can you direct me to a place where municipalities share thoughts on their positions on funding? I've looked on Reddit. I've looked on, I'm not finding the venues that I want to see what different people, where the different thought processes
You
are.
might see through the Government Finance Officers Association, where they talk about funding of different programs. We do not foster any position. MERS will accept what these boards decide at the local level. But we can give you tools like the total liability calculator. Just when funding goes up and down, there are many levers that cause it to happen. I spoke of a couple of them when we extended life tables and when we lowered assumed rate of returns. That just added liability. You're on a trajectory to go up. And if you would go to, I can show you what I was talking about. If we just look at that on table, and I'm taking way too much time, I apologize. But if you went to table 7, page 25. If you see on that table in year 2014, your percent funded was 73%. You went down to 67% in 2015. That's because we changed your assumption. We went more conservative. It wasn't because we didn't make money in the investment market. It wasn't because you gave away benefits to your employees. It was because we had to recognize that people were living longer and that at that time, that the ability to get an 8% return was, we are being very challenged and had to be very risky because the bond market right there is returning less than 1%. And so we had to realize that the ability to get that higher number of 8% just wasn't there. And that people were actually living longer. The life table showed us that they were living longer. So every 5 years, we do an experience study to see if the assumptions that we are using with our consulting actuaries make sense. They're predicting the experience of the plan. And when they don't, we have to modify them. And so we did that in 2015. And then you see that you were making gains. And then 2018, you're at 68%. And you drop back down to 65% in 2019. We changed assumptions again to more accurately reflect the experience of the plan. So what we are doing right there is people understand that when there's a market correction, that they're overpriced, they come down and then they start going back up. Well, what we had to do is make a correction because people are living longer and investments were not going to be able to get to where we wanted to. All pension systems at the time before we did this, all pension systems, the average across the nation was 8% long-term rate of return. Now it's about 6.8 across the nation because over the last 10 years, most systems dropped their long-term rate of return, more accurately predict what was possible in the retirement system. Life tables in all of those systems went up for the exact same reason. And we were just following and setting best practices with because Gabriel Roeder Smith, our consulting actuaries, they're a nationwide firm and they are able to help us more accurately predict what's going to happen here, which is what it costs you to provide that plan. And part of that is probably why this board decided to go from a defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan, where you are going to define cost, not benefit.
Where's the mortality rate right now? What age?
It is we don't like pick a number by what we actually do is it's more complex because this generation may live here. This generation may live here. And so we do multi-generational and blend it together. So it's a blended rate. But I would tell you on average, it's about 82 for a man, 85 for a woman, but it is a multi-generational because table so that we can more accurately predict.
So your
And
kids are gonna live longer than you.
I thought it was
May-
78 nationwide.
what?
78 was the number I had in my head.
And that may be
Right now.
social security
So-
table.
Is it? It's
But
Females were 78,
But the
75
life
for
table,
males.
so there's an appendix that you can get to, and it's probably on like page 2 where it shows you on the paper copy, you could type that in, or if you have the electronic version, click on it, and we'll send you and talk to you about our life table and give you more data.
Final question, because I know we've gone long. When additional payments are made to MERS, is there a designation or some sort of stipulation that needs to be made with those funds when they're paid in? So they're used in the way the entity means it to be used?
So they will go and be invested in the MERS Total Market Fund, which is our MERS board and our investment board sets up what funds they're going to be invested in. But you can say you want it to be equally dispersed amongst your defined benefit divisions or just to one or a few of those divisions. So if you have lower funded divisions inside of the Benzie County divisions, you could say, I want 50% of this lump sum to go to this division, 25 here and 25 here, and you only funded additionally 3 divisions out of all your divisions. Or you could say you want it equitably dispersed among the divisions.
Thank you.
Any other?
Thank you, Tony.
Just,
Always a pleasure coming. Thank you.
you just
Appreciate
have
your
to
time.
acknowledge that actuarial table, I mean, there's a fair amount of guesswork in it, quite frankly. If I was doing it, I'd be looking at your youngest employee to your oldest employee. What I heard just said is they could be taking newborns to the oldest employees to determine what that lifespan is. Our experience should really be about who are our younger employees, who are our older employees, what is that segment's lifespan likely to be? But, you know,
Especially because it's closed and we know who those people are.
And so what happens with that is it gets evaluated each year. So what we're doing is we're setting it here. But if they die sooner, then it gets revalued every year. So your required contributions are, yes, we have this mortality table set in for each year's required contributions. But what happens is the experience of the plan then resets every year in the annual valuation. Just like if you have a payroll right here, if you're gonna give them a 2% increase, you're in line with the assumption of the plan. If you give them 3%, you've outside the assumption of the plan. If you don't give them, like years when we were taking cuts, that was below and that dropped down liability. So it does get adjusted, every year.
Are you only looking at the population that's in this plan? You're looking at across the country,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yeah, okay.
Good discussion.
Yep. Thank you for being
Thank you for
here.
your time. Sorry for going over.
All right.
Good.
So I'm gonna make the motion in accordance with MCL 15.268. 1H. We'll go into closed session to discuss attorney-client privilege, legal opinion.
No, yeah.
Okay, roll call.
Roll call. Hold on, folks.
Roll call.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Worsakki.
Yes.
Motion carried.
You said don't go anywhere. You understand it takes me that long to stand up.
I know.
I know. I know.
You're unmuted.
Trying to say I have a big head.
We're back in session.
It's your fault.
And it looks like we're at commissioner reports.
Yeah, you started it.
You know who's sick, Rose?
So I believe we're at commissioner reports. Couple of things. I just want to say it so everybody's aware. To reiterate, Benzie Frankfurt football. September 13th, it's a salute to services. And that's anyone in the service industry as far as police, fire, EMS, veterans, active duty, you name it, Frankfurt. At Frankfurt, with Benzie Central. Get there between 5:30 and 5:45. There will be a light luncheon. To say, Grand Terre Missouri Veterans Coalition will be providing the flags. They have approximately 400. Last year, all 400 were out on the field. So we look forward to that, same activity again this year.
What was the time again?
5:30, 5:45
And that's at Frankfurt.
at Frankfurt. I believe we take the field around 6:30. And then Frankfurt will have a little presentation. They have someone that they are gonna acknowledge for that event. As well as at Veterans Affairs meeting yesterday. And we talked about this as well. I was contacted by a representative from the Coho Festival about having a float, so to speak, trailer. So I will have my trailer again with chairs on it for anybody that wants to ride. Meet at Riverside Drive, which is the road south of 31 behind Honor. And that I believe is at 1 o'clock. So I'll be there ready to go for whoever wants to partake.
Tell me the date again.
So that Coho Parade, 24th. As well as at Area Agency on Aging, yesterday was a special meeting. I'm not at liberty to discuss anything that happened there. So. Commissioner Jeanette.
The only comment I want to make regarding my report is that at the EDC, we continue to look at what's a better organization for our economic development efforts. Is it private, public, private, staying with public? We have made the decision to contract with an individual that has all the experience we could possibly need to help us guide us to that decision. Used to be head of the MEDC, helped the Upper Peninsula organize their efforts for economic development. And it'll probably be, I would say, multiple months before we come back with this board on any type of recommendations. Katie, anything you want to add to that?
No, it's accurate.
At 25,000 is what it's going to cost us, and that was already budgeted. Am I right about that?
It's in the draft budget.
Yeah, assuming it gets approved.
Approved it.
And they know that. The contractor knows that.
Question for Art? Here in Cunningham.
Thank you. There was significant discussion on the fire millage at Lake Township. Just approving that, funding it, that sort of thing. And down in community, MSU Extension had a Zoom presentation that listed a plethora of grants. And we were surveyed, what kind of grant money would you be looking for different things? A lot of it pertained to infrastructure. MSU Extension offers a lot of help on that you don't have to hire out and get facilitators for. Katie and I were both on that Zoom and getting that This is also under community. I am a member of a vet to vet group, kind of more locally in my district. And our Karen Korolenko is going to come and present at that group. So she's a wealth of information. And then I met a lot of constituents on a variety of topics. Blue bond issue has come up quite a bit. Our new assessor for the city is Wyatt Crawford, who is local raised. And so he's the new assessor. Then other than that, unless there are some questions, those are the highlights.
He's a good guy. We heard him in Blaine, he's in Weldon. Is it his grandmother that used to work here in South Street? I can't remember. He used to work in equalization years ago.
What was the name?
Why? Oh, well, I don't know. About that.
But anyway, she helped train him. He's been
Thank you.
very good guy.
Any questions for Karen? Commissioner Nye?
Thank you. I attended a couple meetings since we last met. Central Wellness Executive Committee. Full board meeting was reviewed. We discussed a recommendation of the Personnel Committee. They're going to be changing their employee health insurance contribution from 90/10 to 88/12. They're enjoying increases too. Just another example of how our benefit is above and beyond here at the county, what others offer. I attended the Village of Benzonia. They approved a new deputy treasurer. Her name's Michelle O'Kelly. The treasurer for the Village of Benzonia has been in that role for over 30 years. I want to say 34. And it's just they're looking to transition here in the near future. They discussed a request from the Benzonia Planning Commission to develop an invasive species action plan. They have the Japanese knotweed going on, and residents are coming forward saying, we've identified it, what do we do with it? So they are discussing a development of an informational seminars through the village based on information from the Michigan Invasive Species Network. So they can have something established to give folks so they know what to do when they identify that. The village accepted a proposal from Deer and Tree Service to remove dying trees in the village right-of-ways. It was a very interesting discussion at the end of the meeting. A man came to the meeting and identified himself and shared that he was exercising his squatter's rights in the village. Had taken over a home, had been issued a post office, a mailbox. It's a very problematic, concerning situation. Apparently the woman who has been willed the property does not have the means to follow through in court. And he has set up and is stating publicly that he is a squatter and is living there. Concerning. I attended the land bank meeting. This could not be held for lack of a quorum. And my final meeting was the Water Smart Land Use Committee, and the work there, it's very much a study work group. We worked on a baseline process mapping of permitting applications and checks on the process. The goal is to find leverage points for improvement. Those meetings could go on 3-4 hours. We try and cap them off at about 2.5 to 3 hours. And then I had AP review. The final thing I want to say is I think we need to get these flyers out in the community. We have efforts being made by our emergency manager and other entities for the public awareness presentation on scams. That is August 21st, and then the August 14th, which is tomorrow night. You can save a life. And Rebecca Hubers is going to be instructional in showing us how to administer Narcan. I've put these up at my local banks, local grocery stores. I think we need, when we have an effort like this to provide these informational sessions to our community, we need to get the word out that they're being offered. So that's all I have.
Questions for Linda? Tim?
I did some administrative meetings like agenda review, accounts payable, Central Wellness Board meeting, which was also their retreat this year. We did approve the changing the health insurance coordinator to Michigan Planners. We're staying with the Community Blue PPO. There is an increase of 1.31%. A little different than ours. Changing to Delta Dental. That's decreasing by 12.47%. And going to Delta Vision, which is increasing by 46.97%. Think about the vision is only like, it's less than $9,000 a year total for the. That increase is not nearly affecting
Impactful.
impact, yeah. We went through and approved the mission, vision, value statement, board bylaws. We went through and updated and approved our strategic plans and goals. And then we did Narcan training. And had a presentation from Susan Bodwin on board works. Basically, it was the roles and responsibilities of a community mental health board and what they're supposed to be doing in regarding to the executive officer. What the executive officer is supposed to be doing, his staff versus what the board's supposed to be doing. It was pretty informative. But because Central Wellness Network Board is, I think, a fairly good board. We were more of a role model saying, yep, this is kind of how you're supposed to be doing it versus other boards around us that struggled recently. So lots of fun there. The Village of Honor, they held a car show last Saturday to raise money for their matching grant for the playground that they're trying to do. And they raised a little less than $1,000 at the car show. And their treasurer is stepping down, Marianne Goodman, stepping down as treasurer. Another treasurer stuff. But they did hire a deputy treasurer, Christy Bro, to learn, and hopefully she's planning on taking over as treasurer once Marion's taken. Here we'll be advertising that position as well.
Brown, Lesser?
That's what I was wondering.
She was.
I didn't ask. Didn't know. That's all I had.
Questions for Tim? Evan?
All I had was Inland Township meeting at that, they're still working on their assessor contract and trying to figure out what to do with their ARPA funds. They did a survey for the township residents and most of the only 58 came back. But most of the things that the surveys were pushing for were upgrades to the parks. And then they discussed their L 4029, and one of the board members said that since they had extra surplus over the last 2 years, thought about changing their operating millage this year down to 0 mills. It was quite a discussion, and it was just too premature, I think, for everybody because there wasn't enough time for everybody to look at it. So they're still discussing what to do there, but in that discussion also, they talked about starting a finance committee to help out with budgeting and to look into things like this as well. So that was.
Questions for Evan?
Keep pushing them in that direction.
0.
I
I was happy with it as a resident. Yeah, I'll pay no taxes. Thank you.
Mr. Sauer?
You pay taxes. I think Art already covered the health department.
I did not.
We had 5 applicants and we decided to interview them. Be held for the next meeting on 28th. I had coffee with young lady from the Benzie Aquatic Group. And Bill Kennis. And we had a good discussion. They addressed my concerns that they would not be coming to ask the county for money. They have a pretty solid plan as they want to also raise enough money to be able to maintain the building and maintain the facility. And a good start, so I think they're on the right track. As long as nothing changes, I'm all in support of them, so see how they go. I really kind of concerned about the building up here, but we'll see where it gets them. We had the Betsy Valley Trail kind of subcommittee. And, talking with the friends. And we wanted to make sure they fully understand when they go after grants, what it entails. And I think we made some headway. I'm not sure. Had a Maples meeting on the first, because we missed one the month before. And once again, the building has a lot more issue. Is the grab bars in the bathrooms are falling off the walls. I don't know, and they'll pursue it. I thought Megan was gonna be here today, but she can explain it better than I can. Hopefully it's an insurance claim. I don't know. Been a long time and don't know.
Can we make sure to remind them again that we still want to get that money off the books before the end of our fiscal year? That they have that allotment with our agreement, our MOU, and they've not requested those funds yet.
Yeah, right.
I've let them know, but if you could remind them too.
They have not asked for it.
So the MOU, as you'll recall, it detailed an allotment of funds to the Maples every year. That has not been requested as of yet, and I'd really like to get that off the books before September 30th. And the request still hasn't been made.
There was an agreed amount
Yes,
per year.
Yep.
So they've not made a request for drawing that at all?
not this year yet, no, and
Federal
we're
funds.
nearing the end. Yeah,
They don't need to.
yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Well, and that's what I keep hearing over the last few months. And so I've mentioned it multiple times to various folks and I still don't see a request. And I mean, once we hit 9:30, yeah, we gotta move on.
I would have thought Karen would have been all over that by now.
Correct.
must be getting by her. She usually doesn't miss much. The regular Betsy Valley Trail meeting, we had a presentation by the Alberta or the Grand Traverse Land Conservancy on purchasing the Alberta land holding property. They're really in the early stages, trying to raise the money. I think that half of it's raised. I have some concerns. I addressed a little bit of it. Not sure exactly what they totally think they're gonna do there. Sure, there's a brownfield issue there eventually, so. See. Road Commission, this is the one that's got me all fired up. Crystal Mountain, two individuals from Crystal Mountain came and discussed the Crystal Commons project and the concerns with the traffic at Lindy and Weldon. And this weekend was not good. We had one Saturday and we had one Sunday. They were both bad accidents. And the road commission has done the rumble strips. And it's clearly marked, but they're blowing through it. And John Roth had told the road commission he was willing to work with them. I called Bumstead's office and they immediately got back to me. John told me, well, maybe we can do a roundabout there. Hate them, but if it's gonna slow people down to where we're not getting, luckily, I think there hasn't been a fatality there, but this last one, there's a lot of ambulances and stuff, so anything we can do. I really don't understand why they do what they do, but they go right through it. The last guy said his brakes went out. Probably shouldn't have been on the road anyway. And they're hauling the concrete over to the pit and crushing it. So avoid the dust. Let's see, what else I got here? I did go to the Friends of the Betsy Valley Trail. And they're have concerns with Clipper. Clipper did a survey. And they're not actually happy. Anyway, before we got, there was two areas they wanted to fix. One of them is the Crystal Lake segment where it's washing out bad, I get close to County Farm and in that area. And then the paved section over in Frankfurt, the Willow roots are coming through and busting up the concrete. So they got a bid from Elmer's and they got a bid from AJ's to do this part and the other. They agreed to do it. The cost is gonna be about $84,000. But the Friends have the money and we have about 9,000 that we can, a little over 9,000 from the management council we can throw into this. And we're pursuing it right now, but there was possibly an additional 40 grand from the DNR that we can help get this done, and they both need to be done. And the original bid, Elmer's was just gonna tear it off, grind it or whatever. But they finally talked them into cutting the roots on both sides or whatever, because willows are impossible to kill. That was where we're going, and the Friends have agreed to do the project. If we can help them with the money, we will, but we've gotta get everything straightened out there. Last night was the Village of Thompsonville. Colfax and Weldon passed the fire millage increase. They will be hiring a full-time fire chief. But somehow the wording got a little goofed up. She's pointing at me like she knows.
Oh, this was months ago. Yeah,
Huh?
yeah, we knew about that a while ago. The
That they
wording.
worded it wrong?
Yeah,
Because Weldon passed it and they don't have to give them the money till 26 and the other, and Colfax is immediate, so. The current fire chief, Mike, is gonna try to address it at the meetings. I don't know where you can go after it's voted.
well, and what I let Colfax know is they could levy 0 the first year until Weldon is active, and then they levy it the second year. They don't have to levy it their first year if they're waiting on Weldon.
I think that would
Just
make
like
more
us,
sense.
we bring
The
down
fire chief
levies.
wants the money right now, and so anyway.
Yeah.
Mr. McGurr will.
They usually do.
Yeah, but I let Colfax know that they could lower that levy to 0 for this year, so it.
Well, if you
then-
go so far ahead, how come they didn't correct the?
There wasn't
language.
enough time, I don't think,
Oh.
to correct the ballot language by the time they realized it, the state deadline had been passed.
All right, that was in. And once again, that group is complaining about the inspections that we're doing on the water meters and stuff. Well, I believe Bert said they go a couple days a week, right?
My understanding.
Anyway, last thing is, except for Karen, any commissioners want to ride in the parade? Want to ride with the Republic? Anyway, they're asking,
Some of the things they stand for.
oh, a parade's a parade.
A parade's
You're
a
right with the
parade,
veterans
so
though.
She'll ride with
Absolutely.
me and the veterans.
I will.
Anyway, I was asked to ask you folks and let's see what else. They paid some of their water project, about $382,000. Now this is one thing that's kind of confused me. USDA requires them to spend the loan first.
Mhm.
Grant money they don't get till. Is that a guarantee that they're gonna spend the grant money then? They do. Why wouldn't they do it the other way or split it?
The USDA is weird. We did a similar situation downtown for utilities and such. And yes, it's one of the requirements of certain USDA loans that you have to spend the loan and then you get the grant later for the rest of it. It's one of those federal things.
I thought it was interesting anyway.
Yeah, I don't know the methodology behind it, really.
60.
Right. Exactly. Why
Right.
63 days? I don't know.
Right.
I wasn't
Yeah.
at Lansing.
That's all I got. Thank you.
County administrator.
All right, so just a few things for me, in the packet of items that were on your desk. One was the budget book, and I'm sure some of you will give them back to me because we'll put the digital on this afternoon online. So one was the budget book, then the other one was a table. This table shows the last 9.5-ish years of grants we've received from the MMRMA. So your staff is constantly looking for money. That's what we do. We try to save the tax dollars as much as we can. So since 2015, we've received just shy of $1 million in grants just from the MMRMA. So this is just a kind of a cool thing to show you all. Some of the other things I want to go over, Betsy Valley Trail and the Friends of Betsy Valley Trail. We are working through with our legal counsel to update the MOUs with both the DNR and the Friends of Betsy Valley Trail. Right now, there's a 3-way agreement in place, which I don't agree with, nor does our legal counsel. So we're trying to work through to clean up that whole relationship. The Friends of Betsy Valley Trail, bless their hearts. There's certain things they shouldn't be doing, and so we want to really clear up the expectation of who does what in the relationship. We're working through that with legal counsel right now. The other exciting thing with the Betsy Valley Trail is that Gordy Frazier's already gotten started on doing some of the work along this mile segment here that's going to be paved. We are on a timeline of getting all of the draft documents and studies to the state by October 1st. They then have 60 days to review everything, and then we'll publish an RFP for work. We're anticipating paving that mile section in the spring, hopefully, as long as everything lines up. And if there is additional funding outside of the project that we have, the idea is to just continue the paving till the money runs out, essentially. So that project's moving along. Just want to put a plug out there. We're looking for volunteers at animal control. So if anyone wants to pet cats and walk dogs, we'd love to have you. So just stop up at animal control. They have a really cute little white dog up there right now. They walk by my office every day. I love it. On Friday, we're doing collective bargaining with various groups. So hopefully we'll have draft agreements to you guys fairly soon to get approved before the end of the fiscal year. As you know, all of our agreements expire September 30th of this year. And so we're hoping to get those hammered out pretty quickly. We're meeting with 3 different groups on Friday. As a reminder,
starting at 11:30, correct?
yes, starting at 11:30.
Yep.
In this room. MAC, the MAC conference is at the Acme Resort on September 24th through 26th. I've heard from a few of you that you're willing to go or would like to go. The rest of you that I haven't heard from, please let myself or Rose know so we can get you signed up. It does start Tuesday afternoon, evening. We only have a morning meeting that day, so you will be available. And then Wednesday is the bulk of the conference. It's all day, and then Thursday morning. So it's not very long, and it is local. So I'd like to have a huge presence there if we're able to. Merit is also holding a broadband summit coming up in October on the 14th at Crystal Mountain. We were chosen because, like Tim said this morning, we're really a shining star in that whole space. And so if anyone would like to go to the Merit Conference, please let me know. It's October 14th and 15th. It's going to be a lot of telecommunications broadband lingo, but if you're welcome to go if you would like to. Yeah. And like Tim said, I will be part of his presentation. So I plan to be there at least for that afternoon for that part of it. I've been told that it sounds like the Conservancy is full speed ahead on the Alberta project. So that's where it's lying at this point. The Village of Alberta has requested information from us regarding the property that we have. So Rose has sent that over to them, but we're gathering that it's pretty much full speed ahead for them to obtain that property. I did meet with the regional representative of Eagle or I guess it was a week and a half ago now, who is specific to materials management planning. So she is kind of our go-to, our contact for the region for this whole rewrite of the materials management plan. So I am sat down with her, super nice person. She's going to get back to me on some ideas on how to incorporate businesses into the program and maybe bring back cardboard recycling and such. And so we'll communicate and coordinate that with Dave specifically. But she was super nice, a nice fresh breath of air. So that was good. Frankfurt Recycling, I'm still waiting on Frankfurt, so it hasn't fallen off my plate. Okay. I followed up with the mayor and the city superintendent. They're not responding to me. So apparently the recycling site is a non-issue right now. So when they decide it's an issue again, I guess we'll bring it back. And then I am working on a letter to come from Kofia, Roth and Bumstead to Mercury. So I've reached out, Tim's reached out, some of you have reached out, trying to get Mercury to speak to us, to meet with us, what have you. And so I spoke with our representatives and our senator, and they said that they would sign a letter to them, also urging them to communicate with Benzie County and try to work through this process a little quicker because that part of the county is feeling quite forgotten. Final thing is grant administration. So we did have the ad hoc committee to talk about grant administration / grant coordination for Benzie County. And really the marching orders from there was to put together some sort of work group or task force, myself and other subject matter experts in the space, and talk about what makes sense for Benzie County. I've reached out to Lisa at Manistee to hear what they're doing in Manistee County. I know they've hired a grant coordinator of some sort for Manistee. So reaching out to them as to what process they went through and what that person's doing and that sort of thing. So I'll be working through that, just trying to have some sort of task force together to decide and make recommendation to you as to what it looks like for Benzie and what makes sense and those sorts of things. So that's where I'm at with the grant piece, that part of the grant piece of it. We're still obviously doing grant administration in our office with the different grants for Benzie Valley Trail, Parks and Rec, and all those sorts of things. So that's what I have unless there's any questions.
Questions?
Kate, I got a couple of things. Did you have something here? That grant coordinator position. I have asked the communities that I represent, give me some feedback, and when I get that, I will
Thank you.
back to you, okay? And I've also asked them for some input about an EDC person, trying to get their feel.
Okay.
Sometime back, we had agreed that we wanted to explore an ordinance for a pilot at the county level. And we were gonna look at for some language. Can you tell me where we're at with that?
So we adopted the resolution specifically regarding that and kind of the policy outline of that. As far as the draft ordinance goes, it's still very draft. I've kind of put it to bed for now. But I'll bring it back forward on that because other things have taken priority and it hasn't been something that I needed to do right now. Because we did do the first steps in approving that, whole idea here in Benzie County with the policy that we put forward with the resolution as well. So I'll bring forward that here in the near future.
And I know that we, at the point that it was recommended, we didn't have any pending
No.
requests anyway, but I want to make sure that we are able to use that as a tool.
Yep.
And I don't really think that we should talk about it until we've got it fully developed. That's all.
Yeah, so the policy and procedure you guys adopted some time ago, spelled out the basics of all of that. So you're fairly safe other than, details when we get down into the details on what it looks like and that sort of thing. But you did adopt the overarching process and policy then. So the ordinance would be next step.
I met with a group recently at their request, and one of the things that I learned from that is we might want to have what they're referring to as a developer day, and it would talk about all the tools that are available.
Great.
But we can talk about that in a different setting.
Yeah.
And on this report you gave us right here from MMRMA.
Yeah.
What does NAD stand for?
Net asset distribution. So you know how every year with the MMRMA, we get a certain dollar amount back that we put towards our member reserves. That's what that is. So every year they evaluate the plan, evaluate the coverage, evaluate the losses across their whole spectrum. And then they determine what they can give back to the members. And it's called the net asset distribution. And so that's the amount of money that we get back in those given years. And as Benzie County, we always put that towards our reserve retention that we have to maintain with Benzie County because we're always owing that, it seems. And so rather than taking that fund out of the general funds, it gets that money, which is extra and unanticipated, gets pushed to that retention fund. So that's less we have to pay out of our general funds.
And is that an additional to the grants?
Correct.
Or is that an aggregate?
So that's in addition to these grants.
Okay, so like in your bottom column under totals, you've got nearly $1 million in
Net
NAD.
asset distributions.
And
Yep.
then there's another 184,000 that are actual grants that were for specific purposes.
Yeah, so that's how much MMRMA is given back to us as a member over the last 9.5-ish years.
Okay, and those monies that are, that $1 million, we've used that over the course of years for specific things, or does that end up in a general fund?
So so some money is specific, so there's a list of the specific items that some of this money's going to. And then the bulk of that money that goes right into the retention reserve.
Okay,
And so anytime that there's a lawsuit or a claim filed, that money then is used to support that. So you'll recall, we've had conversation about the amount of money we're willing to settle for or something like that. And, you know, really, once you get up to that like $75,000 mark, it doesn't completely affect us until after that amount, because that's our retention stop.
Okay.
And so those funds are being utilized to help pay for the legal services and claim services that we've received over the years.
so that would be found in somewhere in a line item by itself, or is that in commingled with funds?
So the net asset distribution, we don't technically see. They keep that and it's diverted to that fund.
Okay,
Mhm,
so we don't have it here and we're not investing it somewhere.
correct.
It's on their books.
Yeah, the retention reserve is held within the MMRMA.
Okay, thank you.
That's all you got?
That's all I have unless there's other questions.
Kevin?
Been busy. Our afternoon meeting, is it possible for us to move it up? I'm gonna be short on time the afternoon.
You want to be back at 12:30?
Okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine.
45, just for the method of plan things, basing it on a 1:30 meeting. We keep doing this. I think we need to discuss
Well,
whether this is how we want to arrange these meetings, or if we just want to start going an hour after we adjourn or something standard, so we quit doing this. Because we do advertise this as an afternoon meeting at 1:30.
So you're all right with 12:45?
And then should we add an item then to that agenda to discuss what Commissioner Nice brought up?
I think so, because the clarity to the public out there.
Right.
So you're gonna put that in the study session agenda for discussion? Is that-
Yeah, so the study session this afternoon will amend the agenda to add that additional item to talk about that timing piece.
I think that'd be good. Even though we do say that it could happen earlier, the public generally thinks of it as 1:30 now, so.
I think it's because our morning meetings are getting longer and longer. Well, maybe kind of. And so it just naturally makes sense to move it up. So there's not like an hour and a half. Whereas before, I think we were typically done by 11. And so 11:15. And so then it's like you had this really good break of time. Whereas
Part-
now it's a less of a break.
And part of that was for departments to be able to take lunch and what you've got to do. You know,
Some of us are sociopaths. We don't take lunch.
You look like you don't even eat anymore.
so what are we doing?
I believe we're coming back at 12:45.
Oh, 45.
12:45. Got it.
I'm okay with it.
Any correspondence that needs to be dealt with? Didn't see any. Brings us to our final public comment. Anybody like to share? From Josh?
Comment on my, behind here. Thanks for being early in the agenda. I was able to get to that 30 meeting. As well. Commissioner Sauer asked for a little bit of background about our financials. So I included just a couple of our statements of activity through the years to show our growth. Yep. First year, the year before I was hired, and then last year. I included some of this return on investment that Commissioner and I requested, as I mentioned before. Thank you for considering this as we figure out your support and what we need as an organization to be a community development organization. But in terms of being a backbone organization, we're going to continue supporting these initiatives. The communications and metrics, we are going to continue that as well. Broadband will be part of that, even though you're not paying us for that. We did receive $75,000 from Rotary Charities to help help your master plan communications to the community to show what county government is doing. We'll continue being the backbone organization as an incubator kitchen. hundreds of thousands of dollars are being generated from our kitchen. We have dozens of employees that have been employed through our food entrepreneur program. That Rural Readiness Network, we work closely with Leo and Sarah Lucas and their group about how they're trying to help rural communities. So we're backboning that. We have 7 organizations that are participating. We anticipate having more. And then that financial leverage that I brought up when Commissioner Janat brought that up, the leverage that we can provide or at least show to other funders and community members that the county is supporting this growth of Grow Benzie. Your support financially plays a big impact on that, to show that you understand us as a community development organization to be a local entity. We know that NMCAA has a $30 million budget. We know that Traverse Connect has a $15 million budget, but there's no rural communities that have even close to that. And what we're doing is building to that point of being a community development organization that focuses on community needs.
Yes, before you, could I ask a question
Go ahead.
for clarification?
Yeah,
You said that you didn't get paid for the broadband effort?
we absolutely got paid for the broadband effort. We appreciate that.
Yeah,
But in
okay.
terms of, and that's supporting the grant writing.
Yeah.
And that's what we're getting paid to do. What we're doing is also providing communications to the community to support your efforts, to show off your efforts as a county.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Josh.
Yep. Thank you.
There's no other public comment. Look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Kevin? Tim? Motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So moved.